passage at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Pitts, Chairman Stearns. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Class Act. I'm privileged to be joined on this panel with our former colleague, Mr. Kennedy. I'm also grateful to Mr. Pallone for his commitment to making the late Senator Kennedy's dream of dignity and hope for elderly, sick, and disabled Americans a reality. Senator Kennedy so eloquently captured the failure of our long-term care system when he said, too often they have to give up the American dream, the dignity of a job, a home, and a family so they can qualify for Medicaid, the only program that will support them. Class brought so many Americans hope because it was the first real path to delivering real, affordable long-term care. Just 10% of Americans over age 50 have long-term care insurance, yet 70% of them will need long-term care at some point. The remaining 90% of Americans rely on Medicaid. That's why over a third of its dollars go toward long-term care and why cuts to Medicaid at the federal and state levels demand that we make affordable, cost-effective long-term care insurance available to the American people. The current system incentivizes poverty. It forces seniors to blow through their life savings and spend down in order to qualify for Medicaid. This perverse incentive forces struggling families into unthinkable positions. Take, for example, a man in his 50s with early onset Alzheimer's. He's ineligible for long-term care through Medicaid due to his wife's salary as a teacher. At $50,000 a year, her salary is too high for Medicaid, but not nearly enough to pay for the nursing home care that can cost up to $90,000 annually in Florida. She could leave her job so they could fall into poverty. She could divorce her sick husband, leaving him destitute, but eligible for expensive long-term care through Medicaid. These choices are not unique. These are the current system's incentives. Save nothing, pass what you do have on to your children before you get sick, own little property, do not purchase long-term care insurance. Follow this plan, and you will be eligible for expensive long-term care through Medicaid. Triumphant statements from opponents of health care reform at the suspension of class do nothing for the grandmother in my district, who must choose between helping her grandson pay for college or paying her own tuition at a nursing home. Cheering the halted implementation of class does nothing for working families I represent with no way of paying for the long-term care their elderly loved ones need. I visit nursing homes in Florida, and I'm pained to hear constituents tell me they miss their homes in Century Village, Kings Point, and other retirement communities. Sadly, Medicaid steers them into institutional care, despite their preference for less costly in-home care and other community-based options. I've heard from seniors facing foreclosure due to spouses' exorbitant nursing home bills. I've heard from young families who cannot afford quality care for the ailing parents they love, yet long-term care insurance remains out of reach for most Americans. No one is immune from the frailty of old age. Anyone can fall ill or become disabled. Take, for example, the case of Alan Brown, a 20-year-old in 1988 when he was struck by a strong ocean wave that severely damaged his spinal cord, leaving him a paraplegic. From wheelchairs to transportation to long-term care, his costs are astronomical. Even with 2 jobs, he struggles to get by. Those who are young and healthy may not always be. Any one of us could become disabled like Mr. Brown, and if that's not compelling enough, the inevitability of aging should be. Critics of class primarily focus on sustainability. If that is a concern, let's fix it. HHS was given statutory latitude, and I join the class actuary and class advocates in believing that the Secretary has enough authority to make the program work. Others disagree and imply that a legislative fix is needed. So let's fix it. Just as Social Security succeeded as a wage insurance, reducing elderly poverty from 50% to 10%, Americans should have an affordable way to finance long-term care. For the 200,000 seniors I represent, the jovial reaction to the suspension of class was both disheartening and predictable. Mr. Chairman, my constituents, our constituents, deserve more. We must seize this opportunity to get long-term care right in America. Together, I believe we can improve upon an incredibly promising idea, reduce entitlement spending, and ensure Americans greater financial security. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Chair, thanks the gentleman. Now